To celebrate National Quilting Day, I'm teaming up with my fellow YouTube creators to share our favorite tips and tricks. If you want to learn something new or just have some company while you sew, you can find links to all of their videos in the description below. When you see a quilt pattern call for 132 half square triangles, do you cringe a little bit on the inside? My name is Haley with Haley Stitches, and today I'm going to show you how to make half square triangles just a little bit faster. There's lots of different ways you can do this. I have a few tricks up my sleeve to help make this process go super quick, and a lot of these techniques you can implement without having to buy anything extra. So let's get started. The first tip goes for really any project, is just to make sure you're prepared. My favorite ways to do this is to label my fabric, to have all of my stations set up, my sewing station, my pressing station, my cutting station, and to have a few extra bobbins around so I don't have to worry about that while I'm sewing. Making sure you have everything you need for your project before you get started can really save you a lot of time. One of the first steps when making half square triangles is drawing that diagonal line. This can get super time consuming, and I love looking for ways to make this go faster. I have 2 tips to share with you to make this diagonal line drawing go a little bit quicker. The first one is to invest in diagonal seam tape. This is a specialty notion that you can put directly on your sewing machine that will mark that 1/4 inch line. Now, my sewing machine doesn't quite work with this tape because I don't have a big table, so I'm just going to show you how this works as if you were using it on your own machine. Basically, you put it right on your machine, and then it marks that diagonal line for you. So you line up your top and the bottom of your diagonals with that center line 1/4 inch away on either side. So instead of having to spend your time drawing the line on every single square, you can just use this tape instead. Another way you can mark that diagonal line without having to draw on each individual square is by using your iron. You can just fold your squares in half and iron along that line, and that can be your diagonal line marker. Some people find this a lot faster than marking each individual square, and you can iron several pieces at once to speed things up. The next step in making your half square triangles is sewing all of these squares together. A great way to make this go super quick is chain piecing. Chain piecing just means that you're sewing a lot of pieces together at once instead of putting it through the machine, cutting the thread, then putting the next one through the machine and cutting the thread. You actually never cut the thread until the very end. Not only can you use this when you're sewing half square triangles together, but you can use this method for almost every single part of your quilt. It really helps speed up that sewing process. After you've sewn your pieces together, it's time to trim them all apart. I have a little gadget that makes this super quick. It's basically a way to repurpose your rotary blades and use them to cut your chain piece fabric. All you do is stand this little notion up and then use the blades to cut each of these pieces of fabric. I don't always recommend buying new things just for one purpose, but I find that I use this thing a lot because I chain piece a lot. There are also small thread cutters that stick onto surfaces that you can put on your machine or on your sewing table that serve the same purpose, and they're a lot cheaper. Next, it's time to cut all of those piece squares in half. Cutting each of these squares individually can take a lot of time, so I like to cut several at once. To do this, you can either stack them on top of each other, or you can line them up with the line on your mat to help make sure that you're cutting in the right spot. To do this, I like to slightly overlap several of these squares and then use my long ruler to cut them all at once. This is a really easy way to speed things up. And after that, it's time to press your half square triangles. Unfortunately, I don't have any tips for making the pressing go quicker, so if you have any, let me know in the comments below. After you press, it's time to trim, and in my opinion, this is the most time-consuming portion of making half square triangles. I always make mine a little bit bigger so I can trim them down to size, so I'm always looking for ways to speed this part up. There are 2 different tools I've found that help make this process go a lot faster for me. The first one is a specialty ruler. Now, there are a couple out there. You could have the slotted trimmer or the block lock ruler. I prefer the block lock ruler, but both kind of serve the same purpose. It basically makes the trimming go a lot quicker. I don't have the slotted trimmer, so I'm going to show you how I use the block lock ruler. The ruler has a little ridge here that catches on that pressed seam, so you can line it up and make sure that diagonal edge butts up perfectly with the diagonal line of your half square triangle. I find this ruler to be super helpful, but I know it can be pricey to purchase specialty items like this that really only serve one purpose. So there is a way that you can make it yourself. I actually have a video that shows you how you can make your own block lock ruler, so I'll link that in the description of this video if you're interested in trying it yourself. The other tool that makes trimming half square triangles super easy is a rotating cutting mat. I love that I don't have to move the half square triangle. All I have to do is just rotate this mat and then I can cut the other side. Again, if you don't want to purchase a rotating mat, you can just use a smaller mat that you already own and rotate it on top of your table. Someone commented that tip on one of my videos and I thought it was genius. And those are all of my best tips for making half square triangles faster. I know it might not seem like much, but when you're making like 150 of these things, any little second that you can save really adds up. If you want to put all of these half square triangle tips to good use, check out my free pattern, Charming Sawtooth. You can watch that video here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.